off Roche. Mira in the front line. There's the Hex.
Serpent wards. Hook to get him out of those wards. And now Roche is very low. But KJ comes over, Overgrowth onto 3. That might just cost him his life and will. There wasn't much follow-up to that either, and now they're going to walk into Roche themselves. They'll think about the Requiem. Tai Long, he's about half health. Macropyre down out of the Roche. Whispers inside the pit, pops the BKB, but he's pulverized, and now they've got the Supernova off to the side. They're going to try to get the Dismember and the damage. Roche is low. Who's going to get the Aegis? It's on the ground. Finally picked up by WSC. The kill on the Makoto. So they take out the Sniper. They'll have the Primal back. Tai Long's down and gone. 3 heroes dead. Make it a 4th. The Weaver's the only one alive for Heroic, and it works out for Aurora.
Sure, you smoke, but Thrush is gone already. You're playing versus a TA. There's absolutely no way in hell this is good enough.
Hey, Mira tries to get the jump, but the response is going to be there for the pulverize as well. Dire a little bit slow to fall off with Mira. Mira will die, but still, oh my god, it's so much damage from GPK. Level 25 Queen of Pain, but they've only just got a 1 kill. Nico does drop. GPK is still going to be okay, though, in the middle of the team fight. Look at him just standing his ground. He's going to be fine. Eyes back onto Natsumi. Importantly, didn't have any other support to enable some stuns, and now they're going to be able to jump in with a Requiem combo. If they got the nuke, they do. Raptor Dance is not going to be there. He's got a buyback, but he needs to use it shortly. The buyback's coming through from OG. A massive boundless strike, pushback as well, but the Requiem does cover. Can they get to the tip? They can. Natsumi cancel Kuritich's TP. No, he's just forced to stand his ground and man fight, but he will absolutely not be able to do so. An OG.
They're forcing this Roshan.
Oh, this is feeling pretty rough, man, going in like this.
Zayat's on the high ground with Riddies at the back. They're trying to give info to Na'Vi here as Ducalis blinks in. Oh, Goblin Scarecrow in the back as their snipe on the AA is there. A buyback from Riddies and Goblin Juice moving forward. Sees Ducalis opening for them. To blow up the Shadow Shaman. Niku gets the kill while Triple S, he's on the run back. Nineclass snatches the Aegis as Roshan dies. The Mars Arena's defensively with a nice 2-man spear, but the BKB and a TB in from Tinker, giving protection to Triple S, and Satanic is in on Zayat. A few swipes to the Katana takes the Earth Spirit out of the game. Wire fences, barbed wire, there's mines, all sorts of business here. Oh. Hello, there's a jump on this Razor with the Arena, but the spear misses. The Ice Blast comes in, but got the juice drop low. Got the BKB off and turns to life steal back up. Razor still going to finish off the Mars, and Niku picks up a double kill. Got the juice will still die though to Satanic. The Kez goes wild, but he's blown up by PMA. No one, last man standing here in the fight, getting double edged and whacked around.
And he kicks someone out. Oh, the Mars.
Oh, the Mars. He turned him into a stone. The statue gets kicked all the way back in. Triple S will still get the BKB Arena out while Zayat's on the gate, trapped to the left-hand side. Got the juice, goes diving for the Tinker now. Mars in trouble though, getting blown up. We'll refresh, and Eon is back up, and the Tinker protected by the Arena somewhat. Revenant's deep from Niku's Ember hunting, but Satanic's picked up a double kill on the other side. Tinker dies, buys back immediately. Razor's falling. Satanic inside the Serpent Balls both die at the same time. Aegis claimed up. The Satanic Kez will buy back. In the base, the barracks will fall while Na'Vi return again with Got the Juice going ham. The Satanic, the triple kill, the big Kez with a rapier in his hands. Forces Na'Vi to buy back on this Ember Spirit. Hexed up as the Ice Blast flies. Tinker's in trouble, but so's Niku. Nightclass and Triple S pairing up with Satanic to get an ultra kill. Niku's out. No buyback for him. And Paravision have defended their base. Got some massive kills. Na'Vi thought they could end the game, but it wasn't to be.
Slark still has 15 temporary stacks. That's 60 bonus agility. He's quite strong going into this fight. You have a few
Well out.
He gets
gets the BKB. It's going to snap, though. Can they find the kill on the BZM? No, instead he jumps back to the lane, gets the silence, takes down the Earth Spirit. That's going to be a dieback, and Bottega's got nothing left in the tank. He needs to run. There's no BKBs. He's got a pounce, but a nice E-Blade out from BZM to buy him some space. They turn their attention to the Centaur. They take him out, and Warlock will join him. The Ursa's hungry, man. 33 slowing him up, and there it is. It's an ultra kill. Smoke's gonna pop. Who do they find? It's gonna be nobody. They get the blinks out, but a really good chaser from the Void Spirit trying to find Saksa, but he's hexed up. He's gonna get shackled. He's just dead to start the fight. You committed way too far. The Golem comes out. You lose the Clockwork, and Chrysalis on the front line trying to do his best, but Watson has the damage now. It is running out of steam here for Mouse. Boom might get a kill onto Malady if he's lucky, but it's not even gonna happen. This will be a full team wipe, and Yandex will get the Roche on as well.
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need to get done in a list view. Next, I set a priority and a due date to keep things on track. I create custom statuses to organize my progress exactly how I want. I like to add the action items field so AI can show me the next steps. I add my teammates as watchers so they're in the loop. ClickUp makes work easy, from personal projects to running a multi-billion-dollar company. Click the link below to create your workspace for free.
Cupid? Cupid it. Cupid mayonnaise.
Available. He's not getting away from
Time dilations there. There's no escaping from
stops.
the faceless void. Comes in. Warp space-time. Takes the Ember Spirit down a notch.
After a thrilling day 2, we are kicking off day number 3 here with PGL Wallachia Season 7, and that means there is extra to talk about. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let me first introduce to you the people that we'll talk to. I'm Shiva, and I'll be talking to Jenkins and Gunnar. Jenkins, how are you doing this morning?
Hello. Oh, you went to me first.
Yeah, I figured I'd change it up, you know, keep you on your toes.
I'm great. We've had 2 crazy days of Dota.
We did.
I know I said this after day 1. That was probably the craziest Wallachia day 1 that we've had, which I guess all of us were expecting day 2. It can't be that crazy, but it was again. We had a very long game. I think Stream B had it a little bit longer than Stream
Over 70
A.
minutes, 75 minutes?
Yeah, but lots of 2-1s, lots of very close games, and you know, once again, we got a tournament of crazy shit happening with stand-ins.
We do, and it is day 3, Gunnar. You know what that means.
Means 2 teams are going home and 2 teams are making it through.
Oh yes, I mean that's brutal. Okay, let's talk about teams for a second that are in those positions.
Yep.
You want to? You get to choose. Gunnar, Jenkins will take the other 4.
Sure. I think it's the teams that are on the brink of elimination are interesting to me. I think Yellow Submarine, we've both been hoping, like, every day we're like, they're going to do good. This is the dark horse. And they're struggling. And I think the other big one is, honestly, it's Mao's OG, which both of those teams, if you think of the last PGL, they were doing pretty good. And now they're kind of in this position where one of them is going home today.
Yeah. There's obviously the defending champions on one side and top 6 on the other side.
But it was also like I don't want to say a dominant top 6, but it was a fan favorite top 6.
Yeah.
Like they had good games, good stories, and now one of their stories is going to be over.
Meta defining too.
Yeah.
Like people were copying OG. I mean, to this day, like remnants of that OG style is currently in the meta. And I mean, Maus are the defending champions. Like, the hell's happening here? What's going on? I mean, yeah, it's a shame one of these teams is going home. Actually, it's a damn shame. But it does mean that in the upper parts of the bracket, we also have some pretty incredible stories.
Yeah, the top 4 right now: Liquid, Paravision, Team Spirit, and Heroic. Jenkins, I guess the odd one out. Is there an odd one out?
Yes, there is.
The odd one out? But they've been on an upward trajectory, though.
I mean, they're awesome. So absolutely glad to see it.
I wouldn't be surprised if Heroic with this roster is a consistent at worst top 6 team. Like, I think top 4 is honestly not even out of the question. They've been looking really good. I think Whisper, I think he should just, his offlane's way better than his mid. I think his mid is good because he plays a lot, he likes playing mid, but his offlane's like S tier. I think Tai Lung is an S tier mid, and then Yuma, like all of their players, their cores especially, have been kind of popping off recently. So those top 4 make sense to me. Like, if you told me this is the top 4 going into date number 3 on like day 1 of the tournament, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What I like most about Heroic is just the confusion in their drafts. Like you
I mean,
you watch them draft.
It's good and bad.
And we're like, well, I don't understand this. And I'll be honest, like I feel like every time I watch them, like I genuinely learn a lot about the game. Like they have very fresh ideas, and it's their ideas. You know what I mean? It's like whether it's right or wrong, like they're going to commit to it fully, and oftentimes it ends up actually being correct, and they subvert the meta, and this is what you need to do if you want to get top 4 and not just top 8, top 10. Like, you have to subvert the meta and make the next one and be the first to do that. So.
Yeah. And if you want to be top 4, and if you want to, be top 2, you obviously also have to start with a good foundation, and that all starts in the laning stage. Jenkins, you have some tips on how to deal with hard lanes?
Yeah, so we did talk about Mouse, and I wanted to take a look at a replay of, these guys have very interesting ideas, actually. They're playing against Treant Protector SF, pretty crazy to give that away. This is the extent you have to go to lane against these heroes, is you have Immortal Faith. This was day 1, so he was standing in. Walks with boots to the lane and a smoke, and he deletes the trees using the cogs, and that's not all he's going to use the cogs for. He's also going to use them to manipulate the creeps. So the first creep wave, of course, cannot be aggroed, but for some reason the ward units will actually aggro the creeps, which works on the cogs. So then he'll do a little bit of a body block here, and as you can see, the result of this is that the first wave goes into the tower. So Boom is actually chilling. He's playing against the literal strongest hypothetical lane in Dota, but now the creep wave is in front of his tower, so very comfortable for him. Then what does Immortal Faith do with the next wave while Boom is chilling in front of his tower? He grabs that, he puts a sentry ward down in the camp, and then he hits it as it goes up the high ground so the creep wave doesn't run away, and then he plays behind the tower in a new creep equilibrium that he has created. So they farm that a little bit, and this gives them a chance to go for... This looks like a kill attempt, but it's not. It's just a little bit of lane pressure. And now, after all of this, we can look 450 gold on Boom and almost his full Tranquil boots. So basically, this gets him to that point in the game that he can just like sustain and go jungle and farm in the lane. And like, I thought this was a very interesting example of like, okay, holy shit, how do you give away Treant plus SF? What do you do? It's like all of that just to have a 50
to go like
lane.
even-ish. And then maybe in 2-3 minutes, then you're still behind.
And by the way, they did win the early game in that game, but they lost the game. It was the typical you can't deal with the SF in the late game, but this is the extent you have to go to try to even get past the early game.
Yeah, and that's play. And you also have an example on how people are trying to, because some people are letting Shadow Fiend through. Obviously, Heroic yesterday was successful.
Yeah. So
eventually.
So these are all the teams that have successfully subverted the meta and beaten SF, and I wanted to look at some of the answers. Heroic, this one is crazy. You know, they have the Meepo, which traditionally has been very good against SF. But Darkseer, I'm just going to create an illusion of SF that's your hero is so strong. Let's just take a version of that for us. And we've seen a few other teams do that actually and try that. We saw Liquid. They played with Carry Marcy. So basically, just these 2 drafts are just a melee hero. Actually, all 3 drafts. Melee hero, get on top of SF, and burst him. And then in the other draft, I believe it was Ursa Bat Rider, something like this.
Yeah.
Like you just hard burst this hero, completely hard counter.
I see it as like they basically have this like high physical damage hero that locks you down, like Ursa, Meepo, Marcy, right? Like all they do is just melee range of you and do high physical damage, and then all of them are also paired with BKB piercing stuff. So they have Lasso in one, they have the Viper ult with the Clock Hook in the other. The Liquid one they actually didn't really have too much BKB, but even
Basher Marcy, I guess.
Basher Marcy kind of does it, but also Pucket's 25. You do I think also the Largo movement speed lets you like constantly chase into the Shadow Fiend with like sustain. So it kind of like fits that, but the other two it definitely looks like there's part BKB and part just killing him during his BKB.
Yeah, and then you got to have the right items, Gunnar, to do that with as well, because that also requires a little bit of picking and choosing.
Yeah, so I was looking at the best items right now and so Swiftling, it makes sense because it's just an expensive item.
You're going to get this when you're
winning.
winning.
Whenever you get that, you're winning. But I think the cool ones to note are the Aeon Disc and Daedalus, because I think that kind of shows the meta right now, which is these like very high burst heroes. Like you think of Shadow Fiend does very well. And how do you deal with just getting two-shot by a Shadow Fiend? It's Aeon Disc. So I think that people are kind of starting to realize that you need to have as much damage as possible in as short amount of time, and the supports need to kind of deal with it. But then on the other side, the thing that I found was very interesting was the worst items that is kind of being performed, which is two of them kind of make sense in the meta, which is Midas and the Radiance, because they're both kind of farming items that don't really give you this like burst.
Yeah.
But the two that actually surprised me the most were Butterfly and Ghost Scepter. I actually have about a 30% win rate.
They're supposed to be good.
Which is supposed to be good versus like physical, right? Like Butterfly gives you evasion, it gives you armor. Ghost Scepter, we saw it, makes you ethereal. You can't be taking physical damage. But I think those don't give you on cores. They don't give you the burst damage that like a Daedalus does, or an Abyssal Blade or Silver Edge, which is another like pretty successful item. And it's also, I think those items don't do anything against magic damage. So when you're building pure damage like a Daedalus, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter if there's a magic damage hero because you'll two-shot him. Like you see a Skywrath Mage, he gets two-shot. But the Butterfly doesn't help you really two-shot him. You still have to like 3, 4, 5 hits. So it's pretty cool to see that now everyone's just front-loading their damage.
I mean, Ghost Scepter makes sense to me. Like ever since they made it so you can't Ghost and BKB at the same time, I feel like that item is just kind of garbage.
Yeah.
But Butterfly is very interesting.
It's weird. I think
that's a weird one.
The items I feel like always have the highest win rates were Shiva's and Butterfly.
Yeah.
Because they just do so much to the enemy. Like Shiva's does the attack speed slow and the HP reduction. And then just the evasion from Butterfly. It's one of the only couple items in the game that gives you evasion, and it forces this MKB. But yeah, it's pretty cool that it's not getting picked up, especially with all the, or not winning that much.
Yeah.
Especially with like all the Shadow Fiends and TAs and Ursas.
We could take a look at the heroes that are successful at the moment and see how it really ties together, because it is, Shadow Fiend is in that list of successful heroes.
Yeah, it's I think for me, like the physical ones here are the Ursa Shadow Fiend. And I think right under here there's like a TA is also somewhat in the top 10, I want to say. And so it's like the carries are definitely all these like super high damage. They're going to kill you in 2-3 seconds. But then the supports are a lot of just like random team fight AoE damage that like Butterfly Ghost Scepter doesn't help you with, right? How does it help with a Fatal Bonds? Like you're still going to die to this AoE damage Fatal Bond. You're still going to die to the Largo Ags, even like the Mars Arena. So it's pretty much right now, I think the game is just BKBs, auras, and as much damage as you can get.
Okay, well, let's see which teams want to buy some BKBs in their series today, because we have another 4 series coming your way on both streams. And this is Stream B. Now, you'll see the bottom 2 series. Those are the 4 teams that are on the brink of potentially elimination if they don't make it through this day, because all 4 of those teams are 0-2 right now in the Swiss group stage. And at the start of the day, those 4 teams you see are all 1-1. So they will be, regardless, moving forward to tomorrow, which, I mean, you got to choose OG Mouse. I don't even feel like I need to ask which
series with the defending champions in it. That's 100% must watch.
Yeah. It just is. I mean, that will be at the end of the day, and that will be a tough choice, guys, because there's also the A stream coming your way, and that, at the end of the day, has all our 2-0s. So you got to choose between OG and Mouse and Spirit Heroic, which I think will be a blockbuster in its own right as well. But if you can't choose that one, Gunnar, which one are you going for?
I think this first one, the Tundra Aurora. Both of the teams, I want to say, have something to prove. Like Tundra is their stand-in with Parker, and Aurora also has a stand with the V-Tune.
Yeah.
So I think this is the teams that are kind of doing okay with stand-ins, because some of the teams, I think, with ones are doing pretty not good. So I'm pretty excited for this, especially with Tundra just coming off a win about a week ago in Dream League. And I don't really know who I would give the favorite to. I want to say Tundra, because they did just win, but Aurora has looked pretty good in some of their games.
Yeah, well, let's focus our attention on that first series because it is going to be a repeat of that grand finals, literally just about a week ago, Jenkins.
Yeah, I wanted to go back and I guess relive how that transpired. I feel like a lot of it was based on strategy. First, you had Tundra kind of dismantling Liquid in terms of banning all of Nisha's specialty heroes and then letting all the OP heroes through, figuring out essentially how to play against those and how to play like whatever is left in. And they kind of did a similar thing against Tundra. If we go ahead and bring up the grand finals, we don't have that. Okay. There was one game that Tundra did not win, and that was the one where they played against a very non-meta draft from Aurora, where they had like Faceless Void on Nightfall. Of course, V-Tune is standing in, so it's a little bit different. They had WS playing his staple Mars, and it was like very heavy team fight meta. Anytime the meta of the game looked just like normal versus normal, Tundra would crush them. Like, they can just play all the meta heroes better. So I would, if you're an Aurora fan, you want the game to look like Aurora has some very Aurora-style draft, but something which is off-meta, something that is weird, because Tundra has clearly shown in winning that tournament, and they're still doing that. Like, every team is now copying the way that they won that tournament. You have to basically... You have to play off meta against them. It's not going to work otherwise. Like, they've dismantled the current meta more than any other team.
I remember the conversation that was had during that best of 5, which I think is something that I hope Aurora learned from a lot as well, because those first 2 games that they played against each other, it was just the Tundra show. And it looked like Aurora was just drowning against them. And then in that game that they did win, it was like, okay, you know what? If we're going to go out, we're going to go out our style. And they got an early Mars, which I think will be also in contention
and they
heavily.
They crushed it.
In indeed this game. So I just want to